Hey, all. Brother Charles here. Today I'd like to talk to you about adultery. You see, this morning when I woke up, I was doing my typical routine. After I read my Bible and prayed, I saw a news article on Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is currently the Speaker of the House here in the United States. It was, I guess, an old video that had come up about him and his son being accountability partners for viewing explicit things and things like that on their phones and computers and whatnot. Now, in today's culture, these sorts of explicit things are not looked down on, and they're actually celebrated a lot of times. You can. I don't even want to get into it, but I want to take you to Matthew chapter 5, verse 28. And Jesus says, "But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart." Now, dear friends, if you look on a woman in such a way to lust after her, and with certain websites and explicit content out there, you've quite easily committed adultery. Even if you're scrolling on Instagram, Facebook, and some of the other social medias out there, and you see some woman come across in lewd attire, I mean, as a man, it's hard not to. Sincerely, God created us in such a way that we're very visually stimulated. And as a married man, in a man in modern culture, you have to keep yourself from these things. So, in the particular video that Mike Johnson, he's at some sort of convention. I'll play it for you here in just a second. But he's talking about Covenant Eyes, the software, and him and his son being accountability partners for it. So that if Mike were to pull up some sort of illicit information and material on his phone, his son would get notified by it, and vice versa. You know, I have kind of a unique perspective on this sort of stuff, being as somebody that works in the tech industry. Now, one of the big things is talking about he's installing spyware on his computer. He's letting this company see everything on his devices and whatnot. And if he's in the government, he may still have a personal phone, and that's where he can install these sorts of things. Government phones and whatnot are heavily locked down and restricted last I checked. Now, I don't work necessarily in the government and locking down the phones and the computers and whatnot, but they have filters and they have most of their networks, locked down, especially whenever we're talking about someone as high up as the Speaker of the House, dear friends. He his information on his computers, stuff like that, is monitored uh, by the IT department, essentially there in in Congress and whatnot, in the House. And possibly the government has some sort of stuff to do with that. The NSA and all of them monitoring that stuff. So I highly doubt that he's installing this software on his work phone, so to say. His personal phone is a whole other matter. Um, from what I've seen of Mike Johnson, he seems to be trying to live an honorable life to God. I don't know the man. I've never met him. I've never spoke a word to him, but based on what I see, that's the way that he's trying to live. And good for him. Good for him being an example to his son, and showing his son that he's accountable in these manners, because a lot of fathers these days are do as I say, not as I do. But anyway, I could go down that rabbit trail all day. But on the side of the Covenant Eyes, as best as I can look at it, Covenant Eyes is definitely an intrusion of privacy, but it is an intrusion of privacy that you have allowed on your
And so
devices.
what it does real simply is it has an algorithm and software. It's way above my head how it works, but it scans. You obviously opt into it, but it scans all the activity on your phone.
Covenant Eyes is a tool for that sort of thing. And just like any other tool, the tool can be used for the right and wrong purposes. Now, Covenant Eyes is a software that, as best as I can tell, basically goes through and monitors your device, the pictures and things, the things that you search and type in and whatnot. Now, in many circles, could that be considered spyware? Even, Google years ago disabled the plugin for Chrome, citing it as a malicious software. Absolutely, it could be considered that. But the users know that they're installing this on their devices and they're willingly opting into it. And the parents that install it on their children's devices are doing what any good parent today should be doing, and they're monitoring the activity of their children. You see, friends, there's so many wicked things out there in the world that the devil just lures children into. And for parents to have a tool like this for their children, I think's great. But to call a man out on something, trying to show that he's a good father, and he's being accountable to his family, not only to his son, but to his wife. I mean, any wife out there that would just willingly let their husband look at explicit content and look and lust after other women, there's a deep problem there. And men, if you're doing these sorts of things and you're not ashamed of it, you're not seeking help about it, there's a problem there too, whether you want to admit it or not. You see, looking at explicit content like that is a problem. It's just like any other substance related problem. You know, food can be a great thing, but if it causes you to get overweight, which I know I'm in that, it's a struggle. Um, you have to fight these things. And I'll be the first to say, in that area, I've lost some weight recently and I'm really trying. But with any addiction that's out there, there's a struggle. And just like with rehab facilities and, people out there, counselors, coaches, whatnot, helping people get over these sorts of addictions and things like that, there are tools in their repertoire to be able to use. Substance abuse, you may just have to go into a full detox. And you know what? If you do something like that, you absolutely lose all privacy. If there's all sorts of different addictions and problems that we as humans have day to day, that there are solutions for us to help fix. And with people out there calling Mike Johnson some pervert or some weird dude or whatever for having Covenant Eyes on his phones and devices and things like that. And please understand, from the security side of things, I think Covenant Eyes could be a potential problem in a professional environment. So I really doubt that he's got these sorts of things installed on his work devices. I don't see any IT department allowing these sorts of things. If they want to block that sort of explicit content and things like that, they're going to do it on the back end. They're going to do it from the network level side. They're not going to be doing it on each individual computer with some piece of software like that. That's just not the way that this sort of stuff works. At least not in a good IT department, I'll put it that way. And I really doubt that his device, whatever antivirus and stuff like that that they have on the work computers there at Congress, would be very happy with the software like Covenant Eyes having that kind of access to government information and things that they're doing. So I really doubt that he's doing that. Now, on his personal device, if that's the way that he sees that he has to be accountable to his family and to his son and to his wife and all them, then absolutely, I'm for that sort of thing. You're opting in to this kind of control, this kind of scrutiny.
It scans, you obviously opt into it, but it scans all the.
Covenant Eyes is a company that's been around for a very, very long time. I really, really doubt that they would have been around so long uh, and not had some sort of data breach or something like that. Any company is subject to data breach these days, friends. I don't care how big of a company you are, how much money you throw at your IT department, what kind of security you put in place. It takes one rogue actor or one person that's simply ignorant, and you've compromised the whole thing. I hear about it all the time. There's some major medical equipment company right now that has ransomware running around in their network, and they're trying to recover from it and stuff like it. And that's awful, but that's the world we live in these days. But back to a personal end user using Covenant Eyes on their devices, I do not believe there's anything creepy in my heart about someone doing these sorts of things. As a father, showing that you're honorable and you're not looking at this type of explicit content, I mean, he's being a good dad. He's being a good husband. He's leading by example, which many men today don't. And just merely by looking at another woman in a lustful way, referring back to Matthew 5:28, you're defiling your marriage. You're breaking trust with your wife, and his son one day will be married. And dear friends, if you've looked at these types of awful, wicked things, and then you go into a marriage, it changes the way that you look at your spouse as a husband. It hurts you in so many ways. And the shame that comes with having that type of content in your life is horrible. Absolutely horrible. You're letting the devil into your life in such a terrible and awful way that it just absolutely wrecks you. And dear friends, for a man of his stature to try his very best to cover all of his bases, to live a life honoring God, is admirable. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I really think those of you out there should consider that a man in his position doing these sorts of things, to admire him. Could he fall tomorrow? Absolutely. You can't put your trust in men, much less politicians. But I do think what he's doing is good. And I can't sit here and say that Covenant Eyes is some wonderful software. It's not something that I have a ton of experience with. But I will say, in fighting addictions, in fighting these sorts of things, there are so many good tools out there. And it seems like a good tool to use in this instance. If you're trying to fight this type of illicit content on your devices, I don't see anything out there that's better. There's blocking stuff like that, but most people can't afford that sort of stuff. Most people can't afford $1,000 piece of hardware equipment to put on their network at home. And you have a service out there like this that not only blocks it, or has the capability to block it, but also helps you be accountable, whether it's your spouse or, a friend or your children. That's a great thing to know that you're not alone in this battle and that there's other people helping you. You can't get addicted to some substance out there and just expect to, oh, well, I'm going to be over it tomorrow. If you have an alcohol problem and you've had an alcohol problem for 15 years, you can't just stop it overnight. Yeah, you can go cold turkey, but you're going to need some support. You're going to need some backing. You're going to need some help. And to the best of my knowledge and what I've looked at Covenant Eyes, that's what it does. That's what it helps. So, dear friends, I want to say thank you if you've gotten this far in the video. And I pray that you'll take this information and apply it in your daily life. If you need Covenant Eyes or you need some sort of support or something like that out there, first of all, talk to your local church. Um, they're there to support you, I would hope. Of course, like anything else, there are bad actors and, all sorts of places of life. But if you're in a good church family, go to them first. And then if you need some other help beyond that, there's help there for you. And I pray that whatever addiction or whatever thing that you're fighting in your life, whatever battle's going on, that you come out better on the other side of it. And dear friends, Jesus Christ is the only hope that we have in this life. And I pray that you would put your hope and faith in him. I want to thank you all so much if you've gotten this far in this video. And I pray that I ask that you'd consider giving me a subscribe. If this content has helped you throughout your day or given you a unique perspective on things, please consider it. Thank you all. Hope you have a wonderful day.
And it will send your accountability partner a blurred picture of the image. And so on occasion I get one, I was just looking at the one from this week, I got on Jack, and it said, this is the only one that may be questionable, and it's this blurred image of two women talking in a live screen thing, and I zoom in and I have to unblur it, and it's two middle-aged teachers